I want to say if people are interested in contributing to the project, we have links up here to our GitHub page. You can follow me on Twitter. When important things happen, I announce it on HSQB. And in the fall, we're going to be running a computer tournament. So if you want to build a system to compete in Quizball, details are on that webpage there. So please do check it out and compete if you so desire. And also, I'm going to be moving to the University of Maryland next year, so returning there. So if you are interested in studying computer science and building computers that think on their feet, please do visit us. We also have a not too shabby Quizbowl team as well. And I want to thank our sponsors, the National Science Foundation. So just to prime the pump, one thing that we tried to improve, we tried to make the system more aggressive, to increase the coverage of answers, especially for trash, and to move to a web-based system for training. OK, yeah, so let's start with questions. Oh, yeah, and we'll leave this up.
So I need to run off, but I have a question. So as I was reading, at least, it seemed to me that there was a really strong correlation between questions that QANTA could get and things that had a one-to-one. So like a quote that definitely belonged to someone, or text taken out of a book, or this religious group that lives here. So that makes a lot of sense because you can get those really close in the vector space. What are you doing to try and teach the system to find those less natural connections?
Yeah, so that first category is, of course, much easier because our system, that's one thing it's particularly good at. In terms of trying to generalize, that's one of the challenges we're trying to work on. We're very good at questions where, let's say, who is the author of the Foundation series? One link answers are easy for us, but two links like, Golan Trevis is in this novel, who's the author of this novel? That's harder for us. So that's an active area of research, I guess would be a good way to say that.
And just to hint at how we're researching it, so the idea is that you could find a bunch of pages that mention these links and where you know the answer. So like if you have a bunch of documents that talk about characters in a book, you learn how to identify from descriptions of characters, link that to the character, and map it up to that. And so Mohit Iyer, who is not here tonight, won a Best Paper Award for work that did that last year, and that didn't get integrated into QANTA yet because it doesn't know when it doesn't know. So it still makes, it's very good at guessing things, but it has no idea whether it's confident or not, so we couldn't put it in the system. Okay. Yeah, sure. Yep.
So earlier you mentioned that if it's like above 0.5 on a certain factor, it gets that. Does 0.5% represent like 50% confidence?
And repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question was when the number went above 0.5, what does that mean? And you're correct in saying theorizing that that's when it's confident enough. So we framed this as what's the probability that we have that we think if we buzz right now that we buzz correctly. So if that's above 0.5, then that means we think buzzing correctly will result in a correct answer with that probability. So at the end of the questions, you were seeing that it was getting super confident. It's because it was very sure it would get it right.
And so if people followed the AlphaGo game, it's very similar to what happened there. Our goal is to be so aggressive that on average we eke out a narrow win against players balanced against our own negs. And so we just need to get over that 0.5 threshold so that we have on average a winning percentage against top humans.
Like the clues are also a lot of information. Like if it mentions one thing, and so notice that whenever it's in this battle, immediately started the word that in the wrong category, and also like I'm wondering like they could figure out but it took them a long time to figure out the Norway one, even though I assume we could have looked up the name of that one guy and figured out which country it was associated with.
Yeah.
Two questions there.
Yeah, so I guess the first question is on how, generally speaking, how do we guess the right category? So if you think about the indicators for what the answer category is, like name this human or this man or name this novel, those are good indicators of what the answer is. So we have a system that learns to predict what the answer type is going to be and then only answer with things of that right type. So when you saw the battle thing, it was because it saw the word this battle. Of course, those are the ones that are the most obvious, but there's many other things in language that can also indicate that are specific to certain types of answers or more common for certain types of answers. The second question was, I think you addressed that on the Norway question on finding references to other things. So that's knowing to look up the page for some other person.
Find that, but yeah, but if it could find that, yeah, that's the thing. And also, one of the things it could do would be if it heard the name Vladimir, it wouldn't be thinking Russian because it's not that smart.
Yeah.
And I assume the reason why I guessed Nabokov was because it had butterflies.
Yeah, yeah.
Nabokov is a butterfly collector.
Last time you were here, you mentioned that you were working on some other type of robots as well. I think you remember saying once about the game diplomacy. Any progress reports on those?
Yes, and so I didn't talk about it because I wanted to get to the action. So yes, we do have a system to detect when people are lying to each other on diplomacy, and so check it out on my webpage. There was also some media coverage of that, and so that's quite a bit of fun. And so the short version is, how do you know when someone is lying to you? So or going to betray you? So they stop talking about the future, they butter you up, and they stop making demands of you. So those are three key features to know when someone is going to betray you in the future. Over?
Was QANTA playing deterministically, or was it adjusting on the fly to how well you were playing it?
Deterministically in this case. So if we had decided to buzz early enough, that wasn't going to change with anything that you did. We do, as Jordan mentioned, have work on how to do that, but we weren't able to get it into the system this time. So we played against just whoever we think is the best.
And also it wouldn't help too much because so we basically just cranked it up to the max. And so adjusting your strategy works better when you're playing against weaker players. And so like here it just, whenever it thought it had a chance of getting it right, it buzzed in. But if you're playing against weaker players, you can if they don't know science, you can back off a little bit and be more cautious.
A lot of the questions around computer and now answer based on how it's gonna do where sometimes people answer more related or in a short phrase that could be crazy.
Yeah, so the question is, we had lots of nouny answers, and so we were very thankful for that. So thank you, NAQT, for giving us very nouny answers in these questions. So how do we do on things that aren't very nouny? So we do horribly. So like if the answer is how Sean Bean died in various movies, no shot at all. So we can basically answer things that have an entry in Wikipedia. So if it doesn't have an entry in Wikipedia, we have no shot at answering it. Over here?
So two closely interrelated questions. The first one is have the data you've trained this on, are you only using the process of people answering toss-ups, or have you trained it on just flooding it with information? And also have you hard programmed any behaviors telling it to wait till the end if the other team is on deck, or did you just let it learn that on its own?
Yeah, so first question was on data sources. There's three. Protobol is for learning how to play against people. Aside from that, we have a database of Quiz Bowl questions, which we use for training, and then we augment that with Wikipedia. So whatever Wikipedia pages are answers, we also use those. Then the second question was, what again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's only one rule that we have explicit, which is if the opponent buzzes neg, then we will wait. Other than that, there's no rules. So it's learned everything on its own. Although I think it will learn that pretty easily.
An important part of your program is the identification of key terms, right? Like novel. So can you go further into how the vector field organizational system works and how your algorithm takes these keyterms and tries to search for the right answers?
Yeah, so our system, the one that we ran today is, if you want to, the googly terms would be inverted index, search engine, information retrieval. But generally how these things work is that if you have, say you wanted to index Wikipedia and then you wanted to create a search engine over that, you would take all the words that exist in Wikipedia and say, well, the page for NAQT has all these words. Actually, no, the word quiz happens in all these pages, one of which would be NAQT, maybe one is in all these other things. So then when we get the text, we'll see what words those are, and we'll ask in what documents do those words occur, and then we'll find it where it basically occurs most frequently, and that's likely to be a good answer. That's kind of like the high level idea. There's a lot of details in that, but I'd be happy to talk about that.
And so you asked specifically about when it figures out the question type. So we basically have a separate search engine for various answer types. And so we have a search engine that we built over Wikipedia articles about deities and goddesses and gods, and one for people and one for novels. And so it tries to figure out which one we're talking about and then sends it to the appropriate one. So that's how that's integrated.
In terms of recognition of the question or of the content, I believe what you indicated in the beginning was that there was a data entry that was feeding in the question. Is there going to be a time when you're probably going to have voice recognition, like the reader's reading and the computer's going to process it?
So there's lots of work in speech recognition, and you would be addressing a huge problem space, and playing Quiz Bowl is already hard enough. So one of the things we would like to do that we are only okay at is answering very early when you can answer. So we could focus on doing that, but we're more interested in the knowledge-related parts and actually playing Quiz Bowl than pipelining things together.
Yeah, so we're not particularly interested in extending that. That would make it a lot harder, and we don't know how to do speech recognition very well, so I think that would be great for somebody else to do. What we're interested in as next steps is dealing with harder questions. So like, we are very good at answering difficult questions about easy concepts, which is why we're at HSNCT. So once you get to college level questions, we do horribly. And if you actually go to easier questions, like middle school questions, we also do horribly. And so we want to sort of extend the range up and down that we can answer, and also do things like answer bonuses. Yep.
This might just be a specific engineering question, but like, how does it know that someone on that team is most?
You can't actually, well, I can look at that. This box has a USB, which is connected to our computer, which has a computer program that can tell when it buzzes. So basically, they just type a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And
AffordableBuzzers.com, not a sponsor, but they make very good stuff.
If the model is given enough time, will it eventually come to the right answer? Or does it, like you have seen it in the training data?
Not necessarily. So all the models that we've run until they have stopped learning, or they learn very, very little, which I guess in our field is you train to convergence. So you can train more, but nothing improves. So then what we need to do is think of new and clever ways to make our model better so that it can get even better performance.
So by waiting, is it searching more possible answers?
I mean, it considers different answers, but it doesn't go out further and think harder. It's doing the same amount of thinking. So one reason that it cannot answer questions is that it hasn't seen a question about it before. So I suspect, like the last question, Roman baths, it has never seen a question on Roman baths before. So it just had no chance of answering it because it doesn't know to answer. And if you include everything in Wikipedia, then it will answer Pokemon to 80% of questions. So, in the back?
Actually, I do. Could you say use a narrower answer? I know that Wikipedia has a lot of articles, but most Wikipedia articles some are just self-promoting stuff, some are just not even trustworthy. Could you narrow down the data set and use that as a more efficient?
Yes, it's actually something. Yeah, so the question was, there are some answers on Quizbowl that we can't answer because we've just never seen a question about it, but we could feasibly know what types of answers might be future questions and add those. So for example, current events might include new people that we should know about. So last year's Expo had a question about Donald Trump, for example. So that is actually something that I had thought about this semester only a couple months ago when we our answer set was not as large as it is now. So yes, that's a good idea, and it's something that I am planning on looking into at some point. And you could do it by saying something like, I know all the answers and pages in Wikipedia that are in Quizbowl. Let me see if I can find things that look like that on Wikipedia, but we don't already have.
Or a simpler alternative would be to maybe look at the things that link to that page or are linked from that page and extend out that way.
So I have two questions. One is, so does it have any really understanding of grammar at all, or does it just operate on word association?
So it doesn't understand. Our current model doesn't understand grammar. However, I'll add to that it seems like of all the models we tried, some of them were somewhat grammar aware and some weren't. The ones that weren't seemed to do better. And to us, that kind of indicates, at least to do pretty well at Quizbowl, the grammar isn't quite as important as the information.
Although I would hypothesize that syntax and grammar is important, but you have to do other stuff on top of it to use it, and we're not doing that other stuff, and so that's why it didn't help. And so no one is saying that syntax useless is. It's just that we're not doing the other things we need to do to use it.
Yeah, so you have to, the problem is you have to learn already what the information is and the grammar, and our suspicion is that learning both at once with the things that we tried is too hard, but that the upper bound is higher for that.
What type of hardware are you running Quint on right now? What do you usually typically use at expos, and what's the most powerful system into
Yeah, so we use a variety of computing resources. So the first one obviously is this, but for these expos, we generally pre-generate all what we would do in the circumstances that we encounter. So that would be at expo or test time, so to speak. That's what we use. But these models need to learn and train. So you've all heard of Amazon, I assume. So they have computers in the cloud, so we use some of those machines that...
The instance name and places will know it.
Yeah, so for those interested, we use these high memory instances. They have about 250 gigabytes of RAM, so that's so that we can fit things like all of Wikipedia into our machine so we can learn things. And then the third kind of machine that we use are machines with GPUs. So if you're...
What's a GPU?
Oh, so graphical processor unit. So if you're a gamer, those things are in your computer and what you play games. As it turns out, those are extremely useful for machine learning as well. So if you've heard of buzzwords like neural networks or deep learning or GPU or stuff like that, that's also one thing that we do. So lots of things, all for specific purposes.
All right. 3 more questions, and then...
So speaking of Amazon Web Services, like how much money do you choose when you're saying like money?
So Amazon is very generous with their research grants. So that's what we've been using. At the beginning, we were awarded a $6,000 grant that we have not yet completely used. But I guess I'll iterate, they're very generous with education and research. So if you're interested, that's a good way to get at these resources. So our snapshot, I believe... So the question was, are we updating our Wikipedia database when do we do that? So we have a snapshot of it as it was, I believe, in April. And Wikipedia produces these snapshots that you can download about every month. So every so often we'll update to the newest Wikipedia.
Yeah, but we don't do it in real time because we need to map Quizbowl answers to Wikipedia pages. And if Wikipedia titles change, that breaks our system. And so you may have seen me asking on HSQB for people to align Quizbowl answers to Wikipedia pages, and so that's we periodically need to do that. So whenever we get a new Wikipedia dump, we need to do that. All right, last question.
So, say for instance you have a question like, okay, what would the Queen of England be? And you go to Wikipedia for your source to try to find what the Queen of England might be. However, you know that there's those people that go onto Wikipedia and change the articles and say it says Alton Brown was the Queen of England at that time whenever you took the snapshot. Would that interfere with your system?
So in general, those kind of so the question was, would malicious editing of Wikipedia impact? So it in principle could, but in practice, Wikipedia is usually a pretty good source of information. So if your high school teachers tell you not to cite Wikipedia, but for our purposes, it's good enough.
So I guess I would also add that we have lots of redundant information. So we have questions, and we have Wikipedia, and we look at many Wikipedia pages. And so the malicious edits would need to be in many different places and in unison and saying the same thing. And usually vandals are not very coordinated. So it doesn't help us it doesn't hurt us that much. Okay, so that's it. We'll stick around in case any people want to still ask a question. But thank you again. And if you're interested, check us out on the web. Again, in the fall, we have a computer quiz bowl tournament. Please do consider participating in that. We'll be doing tutorials and things like that over the summer, posting code. So check it out if you're interested. And come to UMD if you want to work on this stuff. Thanks so much.